There we are, episode 19 of the Positive Echo podcast. And we've just hot-footed it over from the Good Morning Portugal studio where we were celebrating your award, which we haven't done on here, have we, Gary? I think you may have mentioned it, but parabéns, congratulations to you. The Advantages of Age Award. Let me just give you full screen so everybody can see that. Can you hold it up again? Look at you. Look at that.
Right.
It's just a beautiful-looking award, isn't it?
Well, it's a lump of glass with etching that is incredibly difficult to catch on camera, but it was a fun time. And,
Very good.
Greatly, I had no idea it was coming. No idea.
And to do with the Positive Echo podcast, connected with?
The thing that I think got one person's attention who'd watched an episode, and then they dug a bit deeper into my Substack, and then they read my memoir, and apparently that was it.
Very good. Very good. Isn't it amazing what's happened since you decided to write a book? Well, since you retired, you were telling this story on the Good Morning Portugal show. You know, the idea of retirement is very different to what's actually happened to you since you retired, right? It's like your life spiraled into all sorts of different directions.
Yeah, I guess I've always been what they would call an intrapreneur. So even though I worked for universities for 30 years, I was constantly doing different things inside it. So I was never satisfied with things. And I never imagined myself retiring, the traditional retiring. I'd work until they'd, drag me kicking and screaming out the building.
Yeah.
But I got to 55, 56, and I thought, done with this. But I can't do nothing. So I started a business. Ran that for eight years. Realized it didn't quite fit me. I knew how to do it, but it didn't quite fit. So I stopped that and I thought, what the hell? I've always fancied writing. So I started writing a memoir for many reasons, mostly for me. Then it started to be liked, the early manuscript, and I decided to publish it. And the doors just opened then. And at the same time, I identified it or realized I was neurodivergent. And I knew I'd spent more time on the planet than I was likely to have left. So was I going to sit in the waiting room?
Yes.
To death? Or was I going to live every moment of every day, even if I do nothing intentionally?
Yes.
And ideas started to come. So
yeah, and here we are.
But I did say on your earlier show, this award is the weirdest category. It's for the most inspiring life story.
Okay.
So it's my entire life. It's not like winning a football match.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Getting your head around that is really tricky.
And I must say, it's a great link to our guest this morning because you're in good company with incredible life stories. The life story of Joe Santos from Vencer, Autismo, I got some sense of last week when he was on the Good Morning Portugal show. And it's a great pleasure to bring him back today to dig a little bit deeper because of some of the themes that came up. The obvious autism connection, but the Positive Echo isn't really about that. That's kind of incidental. It's important, but it's incidental. And some really interesting things came up with Joe about, what goes on with the connection between people, what gets realized, because the focus can be on diagnosis and pathology, if you like, can't it? But there's something else that gets realized in this process, which I think you're an amazing example of as well, Gary. So let's bring him on and celebrate Joe for a little while here on the Positive Echo podcast. So, Joe Santos, welcome.
Hello, good morning to everyone. Oh, those cheers are very natural.
They're so natural, aren't they? I got them from an organic cheer supplier. They're free range as well. We're both in Portugal, as it turns out. So you're up in Porto, I believe.
Yeah, I'm in Porto. Yes, here at our association. Doing business as usual.
Yes, and what I would love to explore today, if we may, Joe, and you talk a lot to people about autism. We made reference to autism, and it comes in and out of our themes and what we're about here on the Positive Echo. But when I spoke to you last week, and of course we need to hear the story, the sort of structural story of how you got to be doing what you're doing, which is inspirational in its own right. But the reason I've called this holistic awareness and not the autism special is because of what gets enabled or realized when people think they're dealing with autism, but some massive aha moment happens because it's about the person looking as much as it's about the person who's being looked at, and all those wonderful connections. And it just, there's an amazing potential in what can happen that was so obvious from what you were saying and what had happened in your life. So perhaps we can come back to that. And I don't know if I've explained myself very well with that, but perhaps we can unpack it in this.
I got it. I mean, I can summarize why I'm here.
Go
now
on, please.
and,
Yeah, you
and
give
why
us your
Vencer
story. The
Autismo exists.
backstory would be great
Yeah.
to know why
So,
what Vencer is all about.
So my real name is Jose because I'm Spanish. I was born in Spain, but I was brought up in American schools in Madrid and in the States. My mom was born in New York, although all my grandparents were from a village in Zamora, only 30 kilometers away from the frontier with the border with Portugal. So that's why the name and the accent and all that.
Yes.
But I was brought up in Spain. Then I went to work. I spent 8 years in Munich, in Germany, working at Siemens. And then I got tired of that. And then I just wanted to build my own company. And I came to Portugal. I came to beautiful Cascais, which I already knew. My dream was just to go to the ocean, nice weather, and try to build a company. I didn't know what was going to happen. That was very successful. Companies in 3 countries. And in that process, I meet my wife. And my wife has had 2 daughters. And the eldest, Kawi, she's autistic. So I entered in the home of autism. And it was just beautiful. I remember being so inspired by this beautiful girl. She was 8 years old, always spinning things around. She was already verbal, but she would never speak like to you, and she wouldn't express her needs nor her feelings. No eye contact. It was very visual. I mean, you could see she would eat her soup. In Portugal, people love eating soup. She would eat her soup with her hair inside. And I remember that was like, why are you doing this? And then when we started understanding, really comprehending Kawi, then that's when the magic happens. Because when you start understanding, I mean, there's a reason for her behaving the way she's behaving. And there's so much to learn from it. In that process, we started working with her. We went to courses in the States, bought all the books and the DVDs back then, started practicing different techniques with her, and they started working. So her evolution was becoming pretty fast because we were dedicating 32 hours per week, one-on-one. It wasn't 2 45-minute sessions of therapy per week. It was 32 hours per week with a bunch of volunteers. So it was actually, we didn't pay for this. Of course, we dedicated all our time. I was running my companies. My wife was running her grandfather's factory. So we were pretty busy people, but
Sure.
we also had the capacity of running a team of volunteers. And Kawi just started improving like crazy. So we would compare with her peers, and her peers were not evolving the way she was, from the sense of being autonomous, etc. Because happiness was something that she was way happier than we were already. Many people confuse that and say, "Oh, I just want my child to be happy." Just look at him. They're already much happier than we are generally. Okay,
Yeah.
Depending on the factors around them. But her autonomy was increasing, and she was becoming way more social, et cetera, et cetera. So that's why we founded Vencer Autismo. We thought it's not fair, nor is it necessary that children with autism are not evolving way faster. So we started teaching in and around Portugal. I still do it today. Yesterday I was in Lisbon. This afternoon I'll be in Caminha up north.
Amazing.
So always just sharing what we know about autism, just opening. At the end of the day, if I really summarize what we're doing, we're allowing people to have hope for their children, teachers, therapists, etc. First, have hope and understand that they can achieve way more than you think. And then, discover the tips and tricks, or let's say the low-hanging fruit that they can work on so that they gain the momentum and the motivation to continue working with their children. And if they do that, for many hours, because this is not automatic, this is not it's not a miracle pill. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of patience, a lot of persistence with love. This is not a war. You don't win this.
Good distinction. Yes.
Yeah, you can't win this with a hammer. It's a human being you're working with. It's not a bicycle, right?
Yes.
It's a human being. So the only way you're gonna have this work positively is when you dedicate yourself, your soul, your everything to that human being that's standing or being in front of you, and then wonderful things start happening, and then with that momentum, you'll just do much more. That's what we did, me and my wife. Gawi is now 25. I met her when she was 8. We worked with her intensely between ages 10 and 12. We homeschooled her because at school she was wasting a lot of time, and we weren't getting the positive effects of dedicating intense time to her. Today she's 25, finished her university degree. She's studied to be an actress. She loves being in theaters, on the stage, and acting, and she's great at doing that. She's autonomous. She finished university without any curricular adaptation. So she's a proof to everybody that these kids can do amazing stuff. They're just going to need all our love, dedication, persistence, patience, and acceptance. Everything starts with acceptance. That's so important. Maybe in the backstage before we started commenting with Gary, the aha moment, I believe, almost happens with most parents when they get it, when they comprehend, and with the comprehensions comes acceptance.
Yes.
And that moment that the acceptance kicks in, the child says, Dad, finally it's you.
Well, that was the wonderful thing that I remember from our last conversation. We're talking. The first thing is we're talking about sort of self-help and mutual help, aren't we? And we're not expecting the government or the school to fix this. There's a problem with my kid. You guys need to sort this out. That's quite an old-fashioned view now, isn't it? And also, it doesn't really work. And less the case is that working because of resourcing and so on.
Yeah.
And then we
let me include before you continue, so I can comment on that one. That's a very important one. We've taught more than 90,000 people already, all around Portugal, also in Brazil and Germany, and we've been in several places, but mainly in Portugal. And it's very common that when I have a question and answers section, people will say, I don't have enough resources, or the government doesn't support me, or teachers say, I have too many kids and I need more help. And our answer from Vencer Autismo when we have these sessions is always, we're giving you tools that you can use no matter what resources you have. We're not going to fix the government problem. That's another league. That's not what we do. What we do is we allow you to understand that child, that youngster, that adult with autism that you have with you, or that you live with or work with or study with. And then I know that you will make the best decision you can. You'll make much better decisions after comprehending than you did before. So we're not entering the other. It's just you can philosophize about it, but it's not going to help you. And it's not going to help your child.
It's enabling, isn't it, to have people become resourceful rather than victims of a lack of resources is an entirely different proposition. And I acknowledge and appreciate how you do that. And then after that, the self-help, as in, resourcing oneself, and this transference, that wonderful moment, I think you've already referred to it, is where it's seen as the child is the problem, but the realization occurs that this is our family's work, and that's where kind of the love comes in, isn't it? This is, and that's what we really have, isn't it, as a resource? Ultimately, the only resource we've got is attention, which is love, really, isn't it? And time with people. And you can't, we've tried to shortcut that in the last few decades. We've tried to commoditize it. Capitalism has sort of done an interesting thing with, how we connect with each other. We've experimented with, and I'm not making a political point. It looks like what we've been doing. And now we're maybe realizing again, and this is what I see in your work, is like, gosh, there's no alternative except for me to just spend some time with my kid, understanding what's going on and connecting. And from that connection, it was the connection. It wasn't the pathology. It wasn't the problem that's the problem. We are the solution ourselves in our connection here and bringing some love to this situation. I mean, what amazing work that is. What a blessing you're bringing to families on that basis. But I guess you have to bring them to a point where they can actually see that.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's our greatest motivation, is seeing and knowing. I mean, when I'm giving for example, today it'll be, I don't know, 120 people or something in Camilla. When I'm looking at all these people, you can see when their eyes start shining. I can already feel what's coming. So they're getting it, and the moment they're getting it, that they already changed the way they see this. I know that and I'm very critical with this. I really criticize the way that the medicine or the doctors or pediatricians, most of them are still treating autism as a disability, as a problem. And this is this is one of the main factors. Because imagine you have a child and the child behaves strange, right? So you speak with your family members and friends, and they say, "Oh yeah, maybe your child, maybe it's something," right? So you're really scared now, okay? And then you go and say, "Maybe I should go get a diagnosis," because you don't think there's any other way around this. So then you go and ask you go to the Centro de Saúde here in Portugal, say, "I need a diagnosis for my child. We suspect maybe he's got autism or something." And they say, "You're going to have to wait 7 months because this is a multidisciplinary team. They have to check." So the parents are then saying, "My God, this is so complex. Not even doctors understand this." So they just eliminated the possibility of the parents allowing themselves to help their child.
Yeah.
So the whole system is just shutting down the real solution. I know many moms that had no support, that they stopped working and they dedicated their lives to their kids, and those kids are fully functional.
Yeah.
And I know the stories, and I can tell they were not mild autism. It's just this love and this connection, because the greatest challenge of a person with autism, due to its extra sensory perception and sensorial configuration, is the biggest challenge is social interaction. So the only way you can build this is in a very safe, very fun, very loving place. Yeah. You have to trust the people you're with. Yeah, and you can't trust people that are just like we get messages from our groups every day, which are just, I used to cry with these messages. I don't cry anymore. Maybe my skin is thick now, but you see the way kids are treated in school, because they're completely misunderstood, right?
Yeah.
So everything backfires, and the effect is actually the opposite of what we want. I'm not saying that people are not well intended. I do believe teachers have good intentions and doing their best.
Yeah, they haven't got a very helpful context, have they? They're doing their best, but they haven't got the right tools or setting to deal with what we're talking about here. Yeah. Gary, I think, sorry, I'm hogging Joe here. I imagine you have one or things you might want to put to Joe.
This isn't your fault, Joe, but I'm feeling quite emotional because of the conversation. For viewers, I identified as neurodivergent, ADHD, autistic traits at the age of 65. My daughter got herself a diagnosis at age 23. And there's many members of my family who are autistic, ADHD. They would all be counted as, in the old parlance, as high functioning. We've all done some really big stuff in life, but at huge emotional cost to us. But I wanted to backtrack a bit. I have this theory that people are labeled as autistic or ADHD or some kind of disability, especially hidden disabilities, because the majority, let's call them neurotypicals, think they are normal. They happen to be the majority. Therefore, de facto in their minds, everyone else is not normal. And there needs to be an explanation. And if there's an explanation, there needs to be a treatment. And with autism, my opinion, and I'd like your opinion on it too, most of what's happened in terms of assisting, giving therapy to autistic kids is to try and make them behave normally. So immediately it discounts who they are.
Yeah.
And schools are the worst. My daughter had horrendous experiences in school from very well-meaning teachers. I'm not going to go into the details. It's her story, not mine. But also something you talked about, they managed to create a disconnection between us, my daughter and her parents.
Wow.
Because the decisions were being taken away from us. Our opinions didn't count. And she was undiagnosed at that time. It wasn't until she was 23. And she was brilliant at masking many things, but it was that social anxiety. She would go to school and all she wanted to do was learn and go in a quiet room. She didn't want to go into the canteen for food. So that's the, in a nutshell, a family who have lived through what you had lived through, but we didn't have a diagnosis. So, where the hell did we go? An acute little thing was when I came out with my daughter and my wife, who is neurotypical, I would say, Phoebe just said, "Welcome to the tribe."
Wow. Well, what a moment that must have been, Gary.
Immediately, it was like this huge hug of, "Oh, that's who I am."
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So I unpacked a lot there, but
it's so sort of helpful and poignant at the same time, isn't it? This, how we're in this great big conspiracy at the moment of, and I this, I guess this is more a question for the end of our conversation rather than the middle of it or the beginning, but something's happening, isn't it, on a grander scale with this? The traditional systems, schooling, medicine, are so woefully misunderstanding this situation. And as you say, Gary, that causes disconnection. People blame themselves, basically, don't they? So families
teachers are being held like this by governments.
Yes.
So that they have to look at specific outcomes, targets.
Yes. Yeah.
And the targets are not healthy for any kid.
No, they were designed for the children's grandparents, the Victorian grandparents, who were able to sit still for 8 hours for fear of being beaten or whatever. And it's not going to work anymore, is it? We have to kind of face that. But bringing it back to sort of a more personal and possibly useful level, I'd love to talk as well, Joe, about you, because I think we've made a really good case for what you do, and people get and have a great understanding, I think, of what you do and the beauty of your work. This is the Positive Echo podcast, and it's we do talk a lot about autism, but more generally, it's about how people can be amazing and what they leave behind them, and you have an amazing story on that personal level about how you stopped being a business guy, or maybe continued, but you also added something to your life as well, and it's that bit of inspiration I'd love to chat with you about as well today, because other people might be thinking that it's like And like Gary, what you were talking about is that the sense of fulfillment. You're a very successful guy, weren't you, in your professional world? But there was still something that hadn't been drawn out of the ether and brought you this great fulfillment in life. What do you say, Joe, to people who are sort of poised on that? Okay, I've got the worldly success, I'm running these businesses or whatever, or I've got my career recognition, but there's something else that I really want to bring to bear in this world. You very bravely broke ranks with that, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay, I'll link the conversation that Gary was having with this one. And it's first, nobody's normal. Everybody's different. Thank God. Thank God every single person is different. And in all my interventions now, I'm always repeating this so everybody really gets this. We are all absolutely different. Thank God. If we were all, there is no normal. And nobody wants the Nobel Prize for being the most normal person in the world, right? But everybody's striving to be normal. Teachers, institutions, hospitals, systems are being bought out by higher powers. Money is leading everything, and then people just follow the rules just because if otherwise they wouldn't get their paycheck. Anyway,
Yeah.
that said, now how about now understanding life from another perspective, which is not only commercial or not only let's say production or consumption, because in society it looks like everybody's just overvaluing producing or consuming. Producing would mean or you earn more money, or you got a nice position, you're a CEO of a corporation, whatever. Or consuming, you have all these ladies showing their purses and their behinds, and that looks like also fame or something that society is for some reason I don't know, giving some value to. But we're missing on the human connection, which is what we all cherish. There's one huge psychological need for every human being, which is being understood for who we really are, being comprehended for who I really am. That also comes into contradiction when we try to dress like somebody else, try to act like somebody else, try to be someone we are not. We are in contradiction, and we feel this. And then maybe, I don't know, some disease or whatever can kick in. But that's not my point. Where I'm going to is our need to feel heard, seen, understood. So when somebody is not feeling very well, like Gary was saying, I didn't feel it, or Carl was mentioning that Gary didn't feel like in the right place, etc. At the end of the day, okay, one part is being sincere with ourselves, and another one is being sincere with our friends and loved ones, and saying, hey, you look stressed. Like often I'm stressed in different projects that I embrace, and if I'm sincere to myself, this is not for me. I mean, maybe somebody else can do it if they want to, but if I continue doing this, it's going to be a disaster. And at the end of the day, this human connection is just, and this would be a tip for anybody that wants the best for somebody they love, independently if they're autistic or not. It's just, observe and be with the person and ask the questions, be curious. I would ask Gary, okay, back then, today, looks like he's accomplished writer, and then everything flourishes from that place where you can, when you're really yourself, right? Back then, it's more like, hey, you seem stressed. Is that something you really love doing? Do you really like it? Because we kind of buy into this system that when you're successful, and I had several companies in 3 countries, you just think you're successful. You say, I'm the face of success. Other people are more successful than I am, for sure, but I'm very successful. But then because you're only seeing it from let's say, a social measuring point of view, let's say. But then, when you have the chance of, this is Kawi here. You can't see it very well because we have some sunshine. That's the first time she spoke in public.
Wow.
And she was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She was 16 or 17 then. That's my wife next to her. Whoa, here's my figure. That's my wife. And that's me. You can't see me. Good.
Yeah, you got full screen now.
I've got the, God is illuminating me, whatever.
The sun is shining on the right.
Okay, I think I spoke enough.
No, fair enough. Yes, and that's another experiment we're in at the moment, isn't it? The redefining of success, and it's just apart from, I don't mean to undermine the individual struggles of people. People are challenged by this situation, the very thing that you're dealing with and you're helping people with. And in the bigger picture, something incredible is also happening, isn't it? A big possibility for greater acceptance, self-acceptance, community acceptance, people understanding the power of love, and maybe that's the trick we were missing all along here. And so what would you say to people, Joe? I mean, you were saying, to Gary, you might have said, are you really, you might have pushed him a little bit on, are you really happy with that? What might you say to somebody listening to the podcast on the train, with that little kind of ache, this isn't quite right. Do you say jump, or does the timing present itself when the transition comes from being to living a more fulfilling, positive echo kind of life?
I mean, that's the greatest question. It's always the most difficult one, which is, what do you want?
Okay, yeah.
What do you want? I mean, it's such a difficult. I don't know what I want. I have difficulty myself with that question, but it's for sure it's helping me to explore it. It's like, what do I want? I don't know. Do I want this? Do I want that? What do I not want? Also very, very important.
Yes,
To just
there's
draw the
inquiry.
limits. Yeah.
At the risk of slipping into coachy mode, rather than what you want, it's maybe what I need, because want is about more stuff again, usually. And very, very few people actually know what they need. And to get what you need, part of it is, well, what the hell do I stand for? What are my non-negotiable values in life? And possibly spending time with a coach, not me, I'm retired, to work out 4 or 5 things that you'd take a bullet for on behalf of your friends and family. That really opens up then, what do I actually need, rather than what do I want? And to decide what you need, although he's maybe gone off the rails a bit late in life, Ben Carson is an ex-neurosurgeon. It used to separate Siamese twins joined at the head. So decisions, and he had this way of working out what it is I need to do. And it was, I think I've got this right. If I do this thing, what's the best outcome? If I do this thing, what's the worst outcome? If I don't do this thing, what's the best? And if I don't do this thing, what's the worst? And you make lists. And in the doing of the lists, the need just drops out, because you're not overthinking the decision. The decision happens in your unconscious. So that's a great way of doing things. And it's a way that we've helped my daughter and me make some life-changing decisions, like stepping away from 30-year career, successful career. I used Ben Carson's tool. I worked out what my core values were, and I realized I wasn't being satisfied anymore.
Yeah.
And it was the easiest decision I'd made at that time, except marrying my missus. Professionally, it was like, oh, okay, right, what's next? So I built the next before I left the job. I'm not stupid. But it's also the difference between being emotionally engaged with something and emotionally attached to it. If you can cut that attachment,
it's being dependent or not being dependent.
Very good. Let's stay with, and in conclusion here, let's stay with the coaching mode, if we may, and ask you, Joe. I mean, how can we help in our own small way here? You're running an amazing organisation that's clearly having an incredible impact here in Portugal and elsewhere, as you said. The project travels around the world as well. What's the next step, and how can we help with Vencer Autismo? What's going on with your project?
I mean, of course, we have the usual, we accept donations, etc. And I can leave here our WhatsApp number, WhatsApp and MBWay, which is the easiest way to donate in Portugal, or just drop an email or whatever. But I would just ask people to, whenever you see somebody that's different than you, different than what you, I don't know, believe, just don't judge them, because they're just, everybody's different, and we were all brought up in a different way. We observed gazillions of different variables throughout our life, so it's clear that we're all coming from a different place always, and that comprehension, that patience, and when we don't know something, it's just ask. Hey, I don't understand why you did this, or you're doing strange things with your fingers. Why do you do that? It's so simple. And the person will say, oh, this, I feel more relaxed when I do this. Great. Excellent. Keep doing it. You know, it's as simple as that. We just have to, you know, maybe just calm down. I don't know if we're living in a crazy moment of everybody's in a hurry and everybody's pursuing maybe things that they don't really need, that they think they want, or they want but they probably don't need. And we just need more of that acceptance and love everywhere. And if we bring that in our daily life, we are the ones who benefit. So
Yes,
this is the
there you
crazy
go.
thing.
Yes, yes. And you've given us an assignment there, which is a lovely one, perhaps to be more curious than judgmental. And I loved, because you said that when we spoke to you last week, you know, why not say to somebody like, what's going on with you? You know, in a curious and open and friendly way. How'd you get to be in a wheelchair? Or, you know, what's up? You seem a bit sad. And not like you shouldn't be, but I'm just interested. I'm just reaching out. What an amazing difference that would be in the world if people were sort of, you know, militantly and generously curious.
Yeah,
As
and
Gary,
being 100% sincere. I think this is
yeah,
very important because people are usually like, a friend of yours tells you a problem that they have, and you say, "Oh, I understand." No, you don't understand. It's impossible to understand the other person.
yes,
What you can say is, "Oh, that sounds tough. Oh, I see that you're sad about that. And, you know, can I help you in any way?" Or just listen. Usually people don't even want an answer. They just want you to listen.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's the details, as Joe was saying there, to make a donation, a contribution to the work of Vencer Autismo. Let's stay in touch, Joe. We'd love to help you as much as we possibly can here in Portugal. I'm sure Gary can advocate in the UK as well. So thank you so much for being with us. And yes,
Thank you, Joe.
thank you to Simon, Mel, who joined us this morning as well. And OLP over in Montana said, "This is an awesome subject. I know some breeds of dogs that are so helpful. I've seen understanding us humans way better than we understand each other. Maybe all breeds. There's curiosity without judgment. That is essentially being a dog owner. You know that, don't you? That they are quite non-judgmental and very open and loving there. So thank you to those of you who've tuned in this morning. Cheers, Joe. Have a great time traveling up to the Comenia, and hope to speak to you again soon.
Beautiful speaking with
Thanks,
you
Joe.
guys. Pleased
You
to meet
better.
you, Gary.
Oh, and I've sent you a message. We have created the Nobel Prize for normality as well. So I'm just sending you that for you now. Me and Gary are going to have a giggle about that now. Cheers, mate. All the
I'm going
best
to
to you.
borrow that.
Bon voyage. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Ciao. There he goes. How lovely to chat with Joe.
Brilliant man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Romance straight away.
Romance, right? The Nobel Normality Prize in Everyday Excellence is the new, and we've just created it here, basically at Joe's suggestion. A single annual prize awarded to the person, group, or entity who most perfectly embodies, defends, or restores absolute normality in a world that keeps trying to escape it. This is tongue in cheek, everybody. It's 1,000,000 Swedish kronor. And it's going to be gold plated. It's going to be a perfectly average human silhouette on the medal, holding a cup of filter coffee, not cold brew, not espresso, just normal coffee. On the back of the award, it will say "Meh, good enough" in 12-point Times New Roman, and the inscription around the edge will be "beige is a personality," and there are other criteria.
You've been playing with Chat GPT.
Yes, I did. Grok came up with this.
Excuse me, while
I think notable past hypothetical laureates are Kevin from Ohio, who went to the same grocery store every Saturday for 23 years, always bought the same exact 14 items, and never once complained about the self-checkout. The entire nation of Denmark, for maintaining a national vibe that can be probably summarized as "it's fine." Probably. Margaret Henderson, 71, of Edinburgh, still pronounces GIF as GIF, the peanut butter way, and refuses to be corrected. 2022 winner, the guy who sits in the middle seat on every flight and never once uses the armrests, identity protected for his own safety. And 2021, postponed due to the pandemic. Reason, nothing felt normal. This is good. Grok's got a sense of humor for sure. Right, and a palate cleanser from you as well, Gary. Is it to do with tennis?
Well, just a second before. I'm
Yes.
just wondering whether Joe would be a worthy winner of our third Positive Echo Award.
Yes, I'll just say yes to that. Okay.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
there
Woohoo!
are some people that just leap out at you, and he's one of them.
Okay. I think all the people in the studio want to second that. Because Joe liked that applause as well. It gets a little bit more of that.
You've had
There
more
you go.
seating put in.
That's very, and isn't it funny? Joe was having sunshine pouring in on him. Do you remember when we spoke to that lovely lady in the States?
Yeah.
And she had to stop speaking to us because the sun was blinding her coming into the room. That's what happens when you come on the Positive Echo show.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, great idea. Well done, Gary. Nice one. And I hope we'll talk to Joe again in the future. You do have a little bit of I shouldn't call it a palate cleanser. Our palate doesn't need cleansing, does it? But this is just like and finally, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like a good cognac after a great meal.
There you go. That's a much better metaphor. Yeah.
I've been thinking about it a long time.
Yes, Joe's been a magnificent meal, and here's the wafer thin mint of Positive Echo-ness to finish off with. Yeah.
So, for full transparency, this is about a project started and run by my cousin's son. So he's my second cousin, Chris Marshall, and his wife Catherine. And they're both excellent tennis players. And they started this thing called G Tennis. And this is their niche set of clients. They're people from every background you can think of, and in particular, backgrounds that wouldn't normally be typically tennis players. So kids from underprivileged environments. And they just set off very small. I think it was one court. It was Chris to begin with. He's a fully qualified Lawn Tennis Association senior coach. And they just grew it and grew it and grew it. So it's now, I think, in 5 or 6 centres in the southeast of England.
Cool.
And still growing. He's got some brilliant coaches, including wheelchair tennis coaches. As you can see, they do not mind what ethnic background you come from. If you want to learn tennis, you go to them.
Yeah.
And it's just a joy. And when I don't meet them very often, but when I do, I always leave the room feeling happier because they're just infectious. And what are these kids now going to do? Some of them might play high quality tennis, very few of them. But the self-awareness, the self-confidence they have, the belief that they can do something that life told them wasn't open to them.
Yeah, superb.
And then it opens doors, because now what other things has society told them they can't do that they now think they probably couldn't have a shot at?
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
gtennis.com.
Why G tennis? What does a G stand for? Did you?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I've got to ask him.
Oh, right.
I think it might be grassroots.
Okay. Yeah, not gangster tennis. Okay.
Not gangster tennis, no.
Not gangster tennis. Right, that's great. gtennis.com there. That's not on the screen. Gary, thank you so much. It was lovely chatting to you, and great fun in this morning segment. Thanks for being on Good Morning Portugal show as well. So we'll leave it there, and I think we might face further disruption with the Christmas schedule, but certainly we'll be going into 2026 with 20 episodes under our belt and loads more fantastic, inspiring guests with positive echoes in 2026.
We've got some good guests lined up. The next one is Stephen Sonsino, ex-professor of business at the London Business School, author, publisher. He's going to talk about how he views legacy and leaving a positive echo.
Super.
Very entertaining guy.
Yeah, you seem like a really nice
17th.
Yeah, fantastic. We'll see you then. Have a great day. Take care, and bye for now.